Sylvanus Olympio is packing for Paris. It's January 1963. He's Togo's first president, and he's done waiting. For 2 years, he's been talking to West Germany. The plan is a Togolese franc backed by the Deutsche Mark, not the French Treasury. His own currency, his own reserves, his own decisions. The paperwork to pull Togo out of the CFA franc zone is almost ready to sign. He never makes the flight. Soldiers surround his house 2 nights before he's due to leave. By morning, he's dead, shot outside the American embassy in Lomé. It's the first military coup in post-colonial French Africa. Nobody's ever fully settled how much of this was about the currency plan and how much was internal Togolese politics. But the timing is the kind of detail that sticks with people. A president trying to leave the franc zone killed days before he could. And the CFA franc he was trying to leave? It's still in Togo today. So, what actually is this currency, and does France still run it? Short answer. Mostly, and in ways that took decades to even become visible. The CFA franc was created in December 1945. France needed a currency for its African colonies after the war. It literally stood for Franc of the French colonies of Africa. Independence came in the early 1960s for most of these countries. The currency didn't leave with the colonial administrators. 14 countries still use it today, split into 2 separate zones. 8 West African states share one version, 6 Central African states share another. Together, that's over 150 million people. Here's the part that isn't well known. Until 2019, those countries had to deposit half their foreign reserves in Paris, not invested locally, not held by their own central banks, sitting in an account at the French Treasury, earning modest interest. France also sat on the boards that ran the 2 African central banks. Real seats, real votes on monetary decisions for countries it no longer governed. The currency's value has always been pegged first to the French franc, now to the euro, fixed at 655.957 CFA francs to 1 euro, guaranteed by France. That guarantee sounds generous, and in one sense, it is. It means CFA francs can always convert into euros, no matter what. It's also the exact lever that made the reserve requirement defensible. France insured the currency, so France wanted the collateral. Even the physical banknotes tell part of this story. CFA francs are printed and minted at a Bank of France facility in Chamalières, a town in central France, nowhere near the 14 countries that spend the money. The central banks running each zone place the orders, but the presses sit in France. It's a small detail, and it's also exactly the kind of detail that sums up the whole relationship. Modern, functional, largely invisible day-to-day, and still routed through Paris. This is where the mechanism actually worked, and it's simpler than people expect. No army enforced this system after independence. A ledger did. Reserves sat in Paris, a French veto sat on the policy committee, and the peg stayed fixed. Break from that, and a country lost the guarantee overnight. Losing the guarantee meant losing automatic convertibility into euros or dollars. For an economy built around imported fuel, machinery, and medicine, that's not abstract. It's the difference between paying a supplier on Tuesday or not paying them at all. So, the system didn't need force to hold together. It needed exit to look more frightening than staying, and mostly it did. Guinea tried it in 1958 under Sékou Touré, launching its own currency immediately. The exit was rough, inflation spiked, and trade relationships strained for years. Other leaders watched that outcome and mostly chose to stay inside the system instead. That's the trade nobody talks about enough. Stability now, sovereignty deferred, and the second one is much harder to see on a chart. And the stability side is genuinely real, not just French messaging. Ivory Coast and Senegal can borrow on international markets at lower rates than most African peers. Investors trust the peg, so they trust the debt sitting behind it. That trust is worth real money in cheaper borrowing year after year. It's also Quietly, one more reason governments keep choosing the current system. The people who benefit most from the peg aren't always the ones paying its hidden costs. In January 1994, the CFA franc was devalued by 50% overnight, decided largely in Paris alongside the IMF, with African finance ministers informed more than negotiating. Prices for imported goods, fuel, and medicine roughly doubled in weeks. Wages didn't. It stabilized the currency zone's finances on paper, and it hit ordinary households hard. Both of those things happened at once, and neither cancels the other out. Now here's the current status, and it matters because most explainers stop at 2019. In December that year, in Abidjan, Macron and Ivorian President Ouattara announced reform. Big headline: the CFA franc would be renamed the ECO. French officials would leave the central bank's governing boards. The 50% reserve deposit requirement would end. All three of those changes were real and they happened. Look at what didn't change, and the picture gets more honest. The peg to the euro stayed exactly the same, 655.957, untouched. France stayed on as the currency's guarantor, the actual backstop behind the peg. The reform touched the most visible, most symbolic pieces of French control. It left the part that actually sets monetary policy fully intact. That's the pattern worth remembering, not just for this currency, but for how reform gets sold. Change what people can see and photograph. Keep what actually decides interest rates and reserves. And the Central African Zone, the other 6 countries, that 2019 reform never even applied to them. Their reserve arrangement with Paris has barely moved since the 1970s. Watch this same shape show up again, just with a different headline attached. In January 2022, Mali's military government faced sanctions after a coup. ECOWAS and the regional bloc froze Mali's assets inside its own shared central bank. A member state got locked out of money that was, on paper, partly its own. That single freeze did more to convince Sahel leaders than any decades-old argument had. By 2024, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger had all left ECOWAS entirely. The formal exit took effect in January 2025 after the required notice period. They're still technically inside the CFA franc zone, still using the same currency, but their governments are now openly building something else. A confederal investment bank launched in late 2025 to manage the transition. Talk of a gold-backed digital currency, sometimes called the Sira, sometimes the Sahel. No firm launch date, and Malian officials have even denied specific reports about it. The technical hurdles here are genuinely large, not just political ones. A shared currency needs shared discipline on spending, borrowing, and inflation. 3 governments running on military rule, with fragile budgets, will find that hard to guarantee. Nigeria's central bank has openly doubted the West African bloc could even meet its own convergence targets. None of that makes the attempt fake or just performance for the cameras. Niger's uranium still leaves the country largely through French-linked mining arrangements, same as it did in 1963. A separate currency wouldn't touch that on its own, but it would end the one piece these leaders keep naming specifically: the idea that a foreign treasury still has a hand on their monetary policy. Whatever else changes or doesn't, that's the specific chain they're trying to cut. And it's the clearest break attempted from this system in 60 years. Sylvanus Olympio's Togo is still in the CFA zone he tried to leave. Its currency policy is still guaranteed from Paris 63 years after his death. That's not really a story about villains and victims, though it gets told that way often. Some leaders who stayed in the system did it for real stability, not weakness. Some who left paid a real price for it, not just symbolic cost. France didn't invent every problem in these economies, and it didn't solve them either. It built a mechanism, kept the parts that mattered most, and let the rest go. And African governments made real choices inside that mechanism for 60 straight years. Some of those choices bought stability their people genuinely needed. Some of them just protected leaders who benefited personally from staying put. Both of those are true, and pretending otherwise flattens a complicated history. That's worth remembering next time a historic reform gets announced anywhere. Ask what actually moved and what just changed its name. The reserve account closed in 2019. The board's seats emptied out. The guarantee, the peg, the euro itself sitting behind the currency never did. Whether that's the next thing to go is still being written right now in 3 Sahel capitals. Olympio never got to finish that particular sentence. Bamako, Ouagadougou, and Niamey are trying to finish it now.